When you get to be $100 million company, you think that's 100 $1 million companies.
Gosh, conversations like this save decades.
It took the lawyers 6 months to get them all off. If nobody doesn't like you, then you probably don't have very good character. What gets rid of most competitors and what gets rid of most people is they're not willing to stick it out. I kind of always jokingly say, like, it was a 34-year overnight success lineage of teaching others how to do things and passing it on. And it's a skill that kind of a dying art in a lot of ways too.
You're one mentor away from tripling, quadrupling, 10x in your business.
I always said the same thing. I didn't learn very much in the classes, but I learned everything in the hallway. If you're a smaller company, you want to grow, like, hang around with the people you want to be like.
I think universities have been failing. They're so overpriced now. They're giving all these young people these wishy-washy feelings.
It doesn't matter if the guy's an electrician. It doesn't matter if he takes business school. You just look across the 200 people and go, I want that guy and that guy, whether it's a plumber, electrician, or like accounting. Like, some of the best people that have ever worked for me came from other areas. Top line vanity, bottom line sanity, cash flow is king. I'm sure there's people that don't like me out there. I hope there is.
Was there a time when you're growing that, like, holy shit, it was like a full wake-up call? All right, it is a great day to be part of the Dirt Life, and today with us, we are super excited to get into the weeds with Steve here. Steve, back in 1989, took a look at his career options, and he said, you know what, suit and tie, I think I'd rather just mow grass. So here we are today, and in 2023, Steve's company did over $100 million in revenue. Urban Life Solutions was a company that he exited this past May, and Steve is here today to give us the full rundown. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, man. So, like, how do you grow a $100 million company? Like, tell us all about, like, when we started our company, our parents thought we were crazy. Like, okay, they're doing their thing in university, they'll get it out of their system, then they'll go get a real
4
job.
years, and then, and you boys are done, go get a real job, you know?
Yeah. So you guys were U of C guys like me, right?
I was U of S, he was U of C.
U of S and I was U of C, yeah.
Oh, U of S, that's a good school. I like it. They're very entrepreneurial.
Exactly,
you know?
yeah.
Brett Wilson was there, and he did his thing. But I was, how did I grow at a $100 million company? That's kind of a big question out of the shoot, so maybe I'll take it in bite-sized pieces and you guys can reframe as you go along. But no, I was going to U of C. I was there on a hockey scholarship, actually, so which is a great way to go through school. And I went to the Haskeen School of Business. Back then it was just called Scurfield Hall. It was it wasn't it was kind of it was a good business school back then. It was kind of ranked second against Queens. Things have readjusted since then, but very corporate driven because Calgary was such into the oil and gas thing. So they're really kind of grooming people to have careers working for big corporations, which I didn't really like. I actually had kids when I was going to university too. I started when I was young, so I had kids.
When did you first saw a kid? Like at what age? Like 19?
I was at 22, 23. I just had turned 23. I was still in school.
Wow, nice. That's beat my record. I was 24 when I had my first.
Oh wow, great! Yeah, it's rare nowadays. Even back when I was doing it, was pretty rare. But so I was living in married student housing back off of Lot 10 there, and it was an exciting time though because it was the Olympics, and I was playing hockey, and I had a kid, and going through school, and then it was like, okay, everybody wanted me to come and work for them, but it was, hey, I heard you can play hockey. Well, I come on Pete Marwick Thor and play on left wing. And I'm like, well, what's my position in the company? And they're like, well, don't worry, we'll figure that out later. But, and I don't know, for me, it just wasn't what I had ever envisioned doing. I just couldn't put the suit on. I grew up paying my way through university mostly I had the scholarship, but I also worked every summer. So I did I worked for Sonic Exploration back then because one of the junior hockey owners owned that company. So I went out in the bush and did seismic, and then I jumped out of helicopters for a couple of years planting trees. So
no way.
When people say, have I planted trees, like, trust me, I've done enough for the environment. Landscape company and pounded lots of trees in the ground. So, I was used to this kind of, go out into the bush and, there was really no rules out there. Like, we did some crazy shit out there that I probably can't say on a podcast, but...
Don't say it. It's a filtered podcast.
This is a pretty open podcast.
We had underwear day where we had to plant our underwear. And then one day we were in Valemont, BC, and we went into town to this old vintage store, and we got all these, like women's clothes from the 30s and 40s. So our boss thought we were nuts. So the next day we came out planting, and we were all dressed up, and we stayed in perfect character all day, like the old Monty Python old ladies.
Love it. Wow.
Yeah, So we did that. So, I came back, and I'd come back to reality in July and August, and I'd train for hockey. So that was a good way. And then I also worked at the Flames hockey schools as well at that time. And that was a good experience. So you go from being in the bush, doing all this crazy shit, like, oh, okay, I got to be good now. It's like, I got to, help the youth of tomorrow become better hockey players.
And how good were you at hockey? Like, how much of a chance did you think you had of going to like the show, like the NHL?
Well, I think that, everybody lives in the delusions like that they're close. But, I got offered a couple pro contracts to go play in Europe, and I talked to Detroit about maybe going to playing in the American Hockey League. But I had kids. When I played junior, I kind of had a certain role, so I didn't think, I felt like, going out there and swinging fists for a living. So, and dragging the kid around Europe and, that kind of stuff. It just didn't make sense. It wasn't a lot of money. Those contracts were more for somebody that wanted to have an experience. So let's go to Europe. Let's make a little bit of money, playing hockey, drink beer, try to find your first girlfriend or a girlfriend, or maybe not. But so that just wasn't for me. It was funny because my partners at the time in ULS were my brother and a fellow named Ross Raymond. But they both went and played in Germany. So I was kind of running the company, and these guys were out, drinking German beer and chasing the Frau lines, and I'm stuck here grinding away on a lawnmower. But it all worked out. So I did. I did have a lot of fun playing hockey, and I got a lot out of it. I mean, just to get your school paid for, have a scholarship. Yeah. My brother played in the Western Hockey League. My nephew just signed with Dallas Stars. So.
Yeah, Chase, right? Chase,
I
heard,
So awesome, he's kind of got like that hockey background. So not all good, but me and my brother were characters, and that would be for a different podcast. But we had some fun. So, I stayed around and started ULS in '89. I had written a paper for an MBA level program in my third year. So going into that summer, I said, well, I should just try it. So I'd written this kind of idea about a landscape company, which really wasn't that overly innovative to start a landscape company, but I just kind of thought of it, like, here's a really infantile industry that I think could really be professionalized. And that was really the basis of the paper, and I wrote it. It was a group project. We had working partners. I worked with a fellow named Paul Battistella, who owns Battistella Developments now. So Paul's a pretty neat guy as well, and he's had his.
He's the one that built all those condos again.
Yeah. All the stuff on First Street by Hotel Arts. Lots of stuff in Kensington, Lido, Pixel. Yeah. He's just finishing up. Nude is his new. Nude by Battistella.
They're all those big condos like
lots of glass.
Yeah. Kind of really. He was kind of going down to San Francisco, Montreal, and doing stuff. And it is kind of an extension of his family business, but me and him started the business up, and my brother Ross started up their own little company.
So just looking from you and Paul were the partners in ULS.
Me, Paul, and then Ross and Jim.
Okay.
So they had kind of had their little thing, and they actually were more like yard dogs in that we bought some spraying franchises. So we started these spraying franchises that were started out of Lethbridge, Alberta, called Varsity Green Spray. So it was kind of be like college pro painters.
Sure.
Interesting.
So we bought those, and that's how we started. We quickly realized, we didn't have enough revenue, so we kind of started expanding into services. So that was in '89. I kind of did it that summer instead of going into the bush and doing trees. 1990, I came back and finished off my degree, and then, I'm going to go work somewhere. I got kids now. I got to get serious, but I started this landscape the summer before, and really bootstrapped it. Like, we kind of went and said, look, give us your equipment out of your garage and we'll look after your house for you.
Okay, really?
And that's how we got our first equipment. Like,
and you're how old at this time?
So I would have been 22.
Okay.
Yeah, 22, 23-ish. So we really started off like grassroots, pardon the pun. So started that going. And then, like I said, in 1990, I'm like, well, I better get a real job. Now I got 2 kids, and I got to get my shit together. So, I started thinking about this, and as I think more about this, and all these people are graduating out of Haskayne School of Business. Of course, back then it was like you got out of there, you had a job.
Oh yeah, 100%, like guaranteed.
Yeah, and you pretty well had a job, and you'd go down and you'd put the blue suit on, and you'd walk down there, and you think you're a big wig, and you're working for some crap hole like some Laurentian bank or something like that, like filing paper in the back room. Yeah. At this time,
and you're going to school for psychology, right?
No, I had a BCom, so I had a business degree. Yeah. I was originally in sports psychology, so I had a minor in psychology, which I think probably did me well, maybe even better than my business degree, as far as being entrepreneurial and growing businesses. 1990, let's do this full bore. So now I've kind of got this whole different air about myself, and that, same thing that you guys had. Hey, mom and dad are like, you're a nut bar. But I came from a very entrepreneurial family. So my mom and dad were super supportive, although they thought I was crazy. But they'd already seen that in my younger years. So
Did they ever like sit you down like seriously and be like, yo, like Steve, like you got to like reconsider? Like
No.
Never? Okay.
They
my
never
mom did that to me. She was like, in year 3 or year 4 of university, she's like, yeah, like, you need to turn it around.
Yeah.
Like you cannot be doing this yard dogs thing.
And I can't believe how many people will make kind of indirect comments at you. Like, I never got the formal sit down, like, what are you doing with your life? But I got a lot of like, you still doing that lawn care thing? You still mowing lawns? Or like,
when
you'd
go to that,
you'd go to an event.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Jimmy, you're wearing like nice clothes. I thought you'd be covered by grass, like those kind of things.
Yeah, oh yeah. I got everything. Like, my buddies that always call me 1-800-CUT-GRASS, Lawn Boy. Remember, there was that movie Lawnmower Man. They got the poster from the theater and they've like put it up on the wall.
No
My buddies just constantly heckling me. They were all downtown, working for various oil and gas companies. Even Paul started at Amaretta Mineral, and then he left there to re-engage with the family business. So I got heckled constantly. And then my brother and Ross are over in Europe chasing girls and playing hockey, having a great time.
Yeah.
And so started, and then it was just, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And really, I'll be honest with you, is that in the back of my mind, it was like, well, I'm going to try this, but I'm sure I'm going to do something different.
Yeah, for sure.
So probably, and then what happens, when you have kids and you have responsibilities and financial responsibilities, you start to realize that there's a big risk in changing courses. So I would look at other opportunities and I'm like, well, if I leave this, then what happens for that 3 months where maybe I don't make money? Yeah. And that's how tight it was. I wanted my wife to kind of be stay at home and look after the kids, not in kind of this repressive kind of statement, but just a statement for the health of our kids.
Oh, it's the best thing for children.
Yeah,
for sure.
and I thought, and I honestly believe that. So that was the deal that we had, and so for me, that put a lot of pressure on making sure that money was coming in. And back then, I mean, with what's happened now with the economy, it's crazy. Like, I don't even know how families can have a kid in hockey or their daughter in dance or their daughter in hockey for that matter, and be able to afford it because, I don't even know how somebody lives on $150,000 anymore. So you start to look at all this stuff, and now it seems almost impossible to do what I did. But back then, if you watched the dollars and you were smart about money, you could kind of manage through. Like, you had the hope that you could get a house. Yeah. I mean, I bought my first house for $126,000, right? Really? And I'm not sitting here like I don't have a cane and I'm not shitting my pants right now. I'm talking.
You look young, man. You look good, man.
How
old are you, by the way? Yeah.
I'm going to be 58 in another 2 months, and
awesome.
So I get my free omelet at Denny's now. I can't believe like 2 more years I'm going to be 60, because it's like, you hear that life goes by quick, but it sure does. So, back on the story now, so now I'm kind of thinking, well, I'm always going to do something different because I don't know if I can give my family the life that I think I can, would like to by like grinding away, cutting grass.
And how many years into ULS and how much money were you making at this point?
Well, what it was weird is like now it's become harder and harder, but there's this kind of like cash economy, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, and especially as a trade, there was a lot of that back then. Yeah. And that obviously starts to fade out as you start to professionalize your business. But it always seemed like I felt like a drug dealer, right? I'd be like, my buddies would be going for beers, I'd be whipping out a wad of $1,000. Like, what happened? Well, I just sold like an old truck off, or
Exactly.
So there'd always seemed to be a way to navigate around things, but. I was probably taken out of the business probably, 40 or 50 grand. Okay. But what I was doing was I would do other jobs. So a lot of times I had 2 jobs. And that's really how I was able to continue to do the landscape company and have that vision and be able to be responsible for a family of 4, which ended up to be a family of 5.
So how many hours were you working? Like full 80-hour weeks, basically, just like.
I always joked, like I used to say, like I never slept for probably 10 years. That started at UFC, right? Where and then I'm playing hockey and stuff. I used to always sleep in the cubicles in Scurfield Hall. I called them my drool pits, right? Because I'd just get up and I'd lift up, I'd have the big stringer of spit, and I'd be like, holy shit, I just fell asleep for 2 hours. And I used to wear white t-shirts that said C's get degrees, because,
teachers probably love that.
it was like, it was back in, I don't know if you guys remember that show, it had Alex P. Keaton on it. Family Ties. It was like this old sitcom, and it was what was his name there? Fox, the guy with Parkinson's. Anyway, the Canadian actor, the guy famous for Back to the Future. And anyway, he was the Alex P. Keaton, and he was like this business kid, and always, that's what it was like at our school. Like, everybody came dressed up.
Okay.
I showed up with a baseball hat on backwards. I had the long hockey hair going, of course. Shitty sweats on white t-shirts, and I took a big black Sharpie and wrote C's get degrees.
It wasn't even like a professional one. It was just
No, it was just I just Sharpied it on there, and I'd wear it to class, and everybody be like wearing suits and like, I'll be and have a briefcase, and I'd be walking in, and like all the profs would be like, Mr. Wheatcroft, what are you doing? I'd be like, I just got to get out of this shithole. Like, I hate to be like so negative about like formal education, but I've got my own opinions on that too, which we could share later. But I just thought like I just needed to get through, because I didn't think like I wasn't going to get a job from working there per se. I just needed to have the experience. I needed to get through. I needed to get the paper, because it gave you the way to walk through the door. Yeah. Right? It was like the hall pass.
Credibility.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's basically what it is. Yeah.
So anyway, when I started to really get serious about ULS, I started to think, well, it can grow, but I wasn't having enough money, so I would do other jobs. So did things like, I worked downtown with some engineers and helped them like do all the schematics of buildings. Like I would climb up into the roof, and because it was stuff that I could do after hours.
Okay.
I worked for my cousin, which was a great experience, building steam rooms and steam bath boilers, which was pretty cool. We did we did a bunch of NHL guys, steam rooms, and I just did that to make extra money. And especially in the winter, it was easy because, if it snowed, I'd go do snow. And my deal was, if it wasn't snow, I'd show up for work. So it was like, I basically worked every day of the year, every day. Like, it was just 24/7, 365 for me. I was either out shoveling snow in the winters, or I was doing another job, including weekends. And that's just how I did it. And it's just, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't like I did, I don't want to think like, I was like locked in a concentration camp, because I still had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I embraced life. I still kept playing hockey and went out with my friends, did a lot of stuff.
I've heard you say once, like, if you're not having fun, like, what's the point? Like,
well, exactly.
You're having fun with a buddy at work, like, 12-hour shift, no problem.
Yeah, well, exactly. And that's how I, at the start of ULS, it was kind of like, it was like a club. Like, people just wanted to join because it was just fun.
All the hockey players,
and it's got a lot harder to run businesses that way, because it's been, again, there just seems to be this kind of like box around businesses that there's rules, and some of the rules are business rules, and some are social rules, and the way that societies clamp down on certain things. So this box of rules is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And unfortunately, sometimes, and I'm not saying it's all bad, there's some things that need to be cleaned up in society, but it's also squeezed a lot of fun out of things.
It is
100%. You can't say what you want anymore. Like,
No.
free speech is honestly pretty much gone.
You're walking on eggshells. Like, you don't say what you actually feel.
Yeah.
It's like, how's he gonna react? What he feels?
Yeah.
He's gonna like pull his phone and call the cops on me. Say one thing.
And it was crazy. Like, when I first started my company, that's why we had so many people that seemed to want to work there, because it was like, it's just how it's going to be. Like, we're going to speak our mind. We're going to do what we want to do. We're going to have fun. We're going to have crazy parties. And that's just how it is. We didn't go as far as, Uber guys parties or whatever. I don't know if you've seen that series yet. But, we lived it up, and we had fun. And as ULS started to grow and become more of a pretty serious business, we continued to do that. And we realized there was a lot of fun, too, in trying to build this business.
For sure.
Yeah. So and that kind of grew a culture where it was just like, these bunch of snow warriors that just wanted to hang out together and do crazy shit and have sleepovers in the shop, and, competitions who can stay at work the longest, which now, like, can you imagine that? Like, if somebody would have to tap out, they're posted on a wall, like, pussy, but they're walking out of the building, and it was all in fun. Like, we know, okay, you made 7 days, sleeping at the shop in sleeping bags. But, it was different time, and it was fun. And it was a neat way to grow a company.
Yeah.
We had fun.
How far did you guys grow with that kind of before you had to like start to really get toward the regulations, the systems, etc.?
Well, I think it was always there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's still there to somewhat. I mean, the end of the story is that the business transformed and was bought up by private equity. And I think once you invite private equity in, which we can get in it later here in the talk, the culture of a company definitely switches. And you have to understand, where it's going to end up. And then things start to get run more like about money and about the numbers, as opposed to, I would often sacrifice profit for anything from, keeping people around, to having a more enjoyable workplace, to having a cooler building, to having nicer trucks for everybody to drive. Like Steve Wheatcroft could have put more money in his pocket, but I thought, well, in the long run, what it's going to do is just force the best people to leave. So I thought, I'd rather keep everybody here and make less money. And some people said that was a mistake, and those would be more, let's call them the official suits of the world.
Yeah.
Like that's not the perfect mentality to have to be a high-end business person.
Yeah.
But I disagree, because I've seen enough of those companies where, why do you even want to be there?
No, I hear you for sure.
Yeah, and so I think that, like I said, if you can have fun in doing anything in life, and it's not always fun. I don't have this Pollyanna attitude either. Like, there's got to be some hard times, and sometimes shit hits the fan. But I think you have to have that mentality that we're all just going to try to enjoy the ride.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter if that's work or your life in general, because life's never perfect.
No.
There's going to be some hard times.
100%.
Yeah.
So take us back. So 1989, you started the company.
Yeah.
I guess for our audience, they want to know, everyone wants to build $1 million business. Like, that is the goal for everyone.
Yep.
So what did you do differently to get from that first $1 million? I know you hit it in about 10 years.
Yeah, which seems like a long time now, because I look back, because I started up Spectrum Equipment. We went from 0 to 10 million in basically 24 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you look at that company and how fast that grew, but it was just a different dollar value for services. We were selling heavy equipment, so you can sell something for $500,000. Well, there you go. You're halfway there on one sale, right?
You also had all the experience, those 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Connections too.
Yeah, so that was a grind. So in year 9, I think we did 911,000. I was like, I want to do $1 million. And I don't know, it was just that thing. Everybody has to have goals, right?
Yeah.
Then the next year, well, it was 1.4, and then it just took off from there, and it was pretty well doubled for the next 5 years. We just doubled every year.
That's crazy.
And then it just kept growing so rapidly, right?
Yeah.
And that's where that kind of thought about let's keep the good people, and that's where it really started to explode. I had a lot of long-term people working there, and I think a lot of times that when you sit down with people and you say hey, we could make more money, that doesn't really grab them. But they saw what I was getting to do, and engaging in more important conversations and meeting different people and learning and being able to go to these conferences. So I started to open up our team to that and say, look, we can go down to Sima, and we can go and look at, go to Landscape Alberta and get involved there. And we can be going to these trade shows in the US. And if we grow, then more of us can go, and more of us can be managers, and more of us can learn business. And so everybody, and then I'd always kind of tack it on it, and maybe we'll make some more money. But nobody really ever heard that part of it. They don't really give a shit about that part of it. They like the part about, we can all grow together as individuals and learn and become better people. That's what I think really captured them to begin with. And of course, at the end of the day, hey, guess what? I can pay you guys more. We can pay everybody more money. And then that became an exciting time, because we were growing the company, and it was rapidly growing. Now we were getting more and more people to be able to have the experiences that I would have. When you get to be $100 million company, you think that's 100 $1 million companies. There's 100 people that got to know what the hell they're doing.
Exactly.
And they got to be smart.
People can't even imagine how much $100 million actually is.
Oh, yeah.
How many cogs are in that machine.
Yeah.
But you're saying that that's grown. A huge part of that's been from having long-term great people.
Yeah.
And what keeps and attracts them isn't necessarily the money, but it's the opportunities to grow and be part of a team, and we can actually elevate an industry here.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying is
for sure. Yeah. You have to think, you have to have the people that want to come along for the ride. Because I think really a really good CEO or a leader of a company, that's what they are. They're just setting the vision and just keep checking that nobody's falling off the Apple truck. Like, is everybody still there? Yep. Is everybody still there? Oh, some people fell off. Why did they fall off?
Yeah.
They took a job somewhere else. They didn't think they had opportunity. These are the things you're going to hear. Well, you can just go, well, too bad. I'm not going to be any bigger than 20 people, so there's not room for, another me.
Yeah.
Whereas, I resigned even as the president of ULS in 2009, and I still stuck around until, 2022. So there's 13 years where I didn't even operate as the president of my own company.
Yeah. Wow.
Not that I wasn't important, but I knew that, we needed to anoint other people to do that. And in all fairness, too, when you think of 100 million, when I sold the company, we were right around 31 million. So the other 69 million came from basically mergers and acquisitions.
Got it. Yeah.
Which is a much easier way to grow a business as far as on revenue side, as opposed to acquiring new clients. But it comes with a different feeling. It was way different when we were running at 31 million than when we were running at 100 million.
So just confirm, you sold out, you exited when it was.
Well, I don't like the word sold out. Sounds like,
Exit.
Yeah.
Sounds like I'm like a pop group. Yeah, you sold out. You used to do hard rock, and now you're singing songs to get necked by young girls.
You sell out.
Sell out.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
Well, I could say I transformed, or how about, or you just sold the business,
sold that,
but maybe not the out part.
Exactly. Yeah.
One word changes everything. Eh?
Exactly. Yeah. So you sold at $31 million.
Yeah.
And that was ULS, right? And you sold 100% of your stake. And were you 100%?
No, I didn't sell all of it. So I sold basically about 60% and retained about 40%.
Got it,
Which, when it got put into the whole thing, gets diluted down. And I gave some shares to some of my employees, and that was the decision. And we did that as a team. So I kind of had two main guys that I kind of leaned on for many years. They're fantastic individuals. Yeah. And we actually got a room at the Calgary Public Library, went down there. We said, we're going to go in there at 7 in the morning. We're staying until 5 at night, and we're going to make a decision on this. And it was a pretty neat process and how we went through the decision process. A lot of sticky notes and a lot of head banging and scratching. And at the end of it, it just kind of basically said, okay, we're going to do this. And for me, really, at the time I was 54, 53, kind of that kind of age. And I had 2 other businesses too. So I was getting tired, I'll be honest, right? I was just getting worn down from it all because we had 300 employees and we were in 2 provinces and to stay engaged all the time. And it was fine because I had kind of backed out and kind of passed off a lot of stuff, but I still had a lot of risk. Because that's the one thing about landscape companies, excavation companies, construction companies, just the CapEx cost.
100%. It costs a lot of money to grow.
Yeah, a lot of money to grow and a lot of money to sustain. We had probably 110 trucks at 31 million, roughly. And how do you keep those repaired? And some of the trucks were big. We were running bigger configuration equipment.
Parking is one thing even. How do you store them in the place?
Oh, yeah.
Inside, outside.
Yeah, and everything just got bigger and bigger and more risky, and I still had personal guarantees.
Got it.
Yeah, I think what my lawyer said, I set a new record for personal guarantees. I think when I sold ULS, I had 328 personal guarantees.
What?
Really?
Yeah.
328 different...
It took the lawyer 6 months to get them all off.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I set a world record, I think, for that. Maybe not a world record, but I think what happens is once you get to a certain point of personal guarantees, they just become, they're not worth anything.
You're all in.
Yeah, I was probably all in on the second one. The other 326 were just ways to get stuff that I needed, and I knew it didn't really matter. I was like, I'm going to succeed or I'm dead. There was no middle ground for me. Right?
I think it's a very inspiring story because I think a lot of especially us back in the day when it was just grinding the first 6 years, it's almost depressing the stuff we were doing. We would just go out there in the skid steer, do a job or two, maybe rack in a couple $100 each, go back to mom and dad's, barely be able to pay the bills. But to hear him being able to exit for $30+ million is there's a lot.
Well, I didn't sell it for that.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing in revenue.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't get that much money, but put it this way, it was I was well compensated.
So are you allowed to say how much that check was when it got deposited?
Well, no, I'm not going to talk about that, but it was more than I thought I needed at the time. in hindsight, I probably could have got more.
Got it. Okay.
But that's life, right? You get to the end of anything and you get to kind of go back through it and replay it. And you get to look at it and you get to say, well, maybe I should have done this and maybe I should have done that. And there's even parts of me that say, maybe I shouldn't even have sold it.
Really?
Right. Oh, yeah. Because I go, things weren't as smooth as I'd hoped, and they haven't really 100% worked out like I'd hoped.
Yeah, got it.
But I don't, again, this is this thing where you just kind of got to sit down at certain points of your life. Some people do it daily. I don't really find it that I do it daily, but just to think about what you're grateful for.
Yeah, 100%.
And when I think of all the great friends and all the experiences I've had and the fact that I got to basically grow a company to the biggest landscape company in Canada. I mean, I think
awesome.
Clintar was 82 million last year, and ULS was maybe 100, 104.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I remember saying I wanted to be the biggest in Calgary, and then I'm like, well, we did it. Like that was accomplished. And whether it was done by merging with other companies and bringing in private equity, I don't really care about that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the simple story is, yep, I did it. Yeah. And I was there the whole way through it. Now, when I look back, would I have done things differently? Of course I would have. But it's you can never think that way, because when you go back in time, it's all these like time travel movies, right? Like you go back in time, you'll change the future. Everything gets so. But I really, when I think about it, I go, yeah, there was a few mistakes I made. But that being said, hey, nobody's crying for me right now, put it that way. I've got a great life and doing some fun stuff, and I got some new stuff coming up, and so I'm super excited about it.
And you were all in the entire time, like 320 plus personal guarantees, all this stuff, those hours. Like, you can't look back at your life and say you half-assed it. You were grinding and stuff, and that's what it's all about. It's like, even if it didn't work out, even if you sold for nothing, you gave it your all. Yeah. That's everything.
Yeah, I think most people that would meet me, I mean, there's people that don't like me out there. I hope there is. If nobody doesn't like you, then you probably don't have very good character. So there's some people that don't like, but I would say that 90% of the people you come across that I've done business with, or I've worked with, or I've been on teams with, they would say I'm a good teammate and that I'm a good person to be around, and to me that's the most important thing, because I know at the end of the day I have lots of people that would step up and go to war with me or help me out, and I have the same feelings about hundreds of people. And if it's always about people standing up for you and doing stuff for you, then maybe you don't really have those deep connections with people. When you can say, though, I do that for other people, because that's how much I care, and that's how much these bonds that I've created. Like, it's got to be a give and take. My wife always gives me shit. She's like, you always the first person to step up and help other people. You never ask for help. Like I live out on this acreage. I was going to move stuff, so I'm out there with like straps and trying to like move 300-pound piece of rock across my property. He's like, why don't you just call your friend up? And I'm like, well, I don't want to bug him. Plus, I got lots of time to kill. So anyway, I have no regrets. That's for sure. And but there's always things you do a little bit different.
For sure.
Yeah.
So the question that I had here is like how impactful was like competitive sports and growing the business? Like that's the mentality. Like without you playing hockey at like the level you played, do you think ULS could have grown to like where it was?
Well, not only that, that's where we recruited from at the start. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, that was another cultural shift. Like at one time we had 47 NCAA, WHL, Olympic, and American Hockey League hockey players working at ULS, and that included some of the girls from the Canadian gold medal team in the Olympics, because they were around too. And I knew Wally Kozak, and he was a big hockey influence in Calgary. So we tapped into the Olympic program and we utilized athletes. Wow. Now, we would probably, out of the 900 employees at ULS, I bet you there's maybe 20 that play college or university sports. That's it. Because now the mentality is, well, I've got to train all summer and I'm not allowed to play sports, and I have to do this and I have to do that. It's completely changed. These athletes would come and work at ULS and go, I'm getting in great shape. Like, this is like cross training. Like, I'm digging. And, we didn't have skids. We didn't have the technology that there is now. So a lot of the stuff was manually done, way more push mowers. So people got a heck of a good workout. That's
20,000 steps a day. Yeah. 100%.
That was one of my jokes.
Yeah.
Like there's like this old ULS employee handbook, like which is basically probably banned in most countries now. It was like if you're getting dehydrated, depending on how hot it is, here's how many big gulps you have to have in a day, and the very last line was, please note the weight loss program that we provided you comes free of charge. You don't have to pay us for that. And so that was the big joke, right? Like you come here, you're going to be in better shape, you're going to lose weight, you're going to get some laughs, you're going to drink Pilsner beer, that's the only beer we buy, blah, 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 blah. So, so the whole athletic side of it was huge, and we built the company around that at the start. That's where we got most of our employees from. We had guys that played, different, like in Calgary had different junior A teams, like there was the Calgary Canucks, and then back then it was called the Calgary Spurs. So even though we were competitors, these guys would be working together, and we got guys from the University of Calgary and like all over the place, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. I found the best employees are the ones that like were raised like playing hockey or football. Yeah, they have that competitive spirit,
Yeah.
Like, same thing like in business. Like growing up, whenever playing like Div 1 hockey, you're just around the best people, the people that want to win.
Yeah.
Right. So like that mentality is instilled with you when you're like 8, 9, 10 years old.
Well, and we did have some athletes that would be more like isolated, like swimmers or something. Mm-hmm. And that's fine, they were good employees too, but like the ones that came from team sports understood that, hey, where nobody's going home till all the properties are cleared, or, oh, it's raining out, too bad. We're going to work through it. There's one crew that's way behind. We're not going back to the shop till they come back to the shop.
So that work ethic's so important, because like these days it seems like people are incentivized to sit on their ass, serve, going to people's bank accounts or chilling out. Like people aren't encouraged to work hard, sweat, get dirty, make it happen. Like it's the opposite. Like people are pushing for universal income and like don't hurt anybody's feelings. Like where do you think that kind of a push is coming from, and where do you think it's going to impact our type of an industry?
Well, our industry right now, it's tough. It's really tough to recruit, and that's I think the biggest challenge of companies. And again, this wasn't part of my thought process when I sold, but I did see harder and harder barriers to working in this industry, and I think that there's going to reach a point, if somebody's smart enough about it, that like I have this, I want to write a book called The Rise of the Blue Collar Worker. Yeah. And if it got made into the movie, there would be a scene where there's Dr. Johnson, right? So Dr. Johnson's got some bricks loose on his house. So Dr. Johnson picks up his phone and, hey, Emilio, I have some bricks loose on my chimney. Can you come out and fix them? And Emilio goes, yeah, no problem. I'll be out there. It's $200 a brick and $900 an hour to do that. And then the doctor says, that's highway robbery. That's bullshit, Emilio. And he goes, well, you make more than that fixing backs. And there's oops, I can't say that. There's hundreds of you guys, but there's only 2 of me left in the world. So go screw yourself. And he slams the phone down. Let's go. Yeah. Because, you can edit that out. But the that's going to be the highlight. But it's like this rise of this blue collar workers. It's going to be huge. And what people have to realize is, how do you make the people that come to that company feel that specialness? And when I used to give these town hall addresses, I used to say, look, here's one thing at ULS. I want you, when you go into 7-Eleven to get your Slurpee or whatever and you're working all day, I want you to be nice to people. Like, don't look down at the floor. It doesn't matter if you got dirt on your face. It doesn't matter if your clothes are dirty. Look them in the eye and just say, hey, how's your day going? Take the person you are outside this company and make it part of who you are at this company. And when they go home, they're going to say, I met these young people today at 7-Eleven when I was in there, and they were landscapers. They're the nicest people I've ever met. Because, like I said, be proud to be a landscaper. Like, be proud to be out there working with your hands. Be proud to be looking after the city and cutting grass. 100%. And I think companies that are going to be successful are going to be able to take young men and women and say, this is important, and we need to work together to increase prices, and we need to get fair dollar for what we're doing. Absolutely. And that's the problem now with companies, is they don't understand the value of what they have. When you're running all this expensive equipment and you're putting all this time into training, and that there's safety regulations around it, and you want to show up at somebody's house, like, here's a really weird thing, okay? So I have cleaners that come to my house, and I know what I pay them. It's like something like $400 every 2 weeks to clean my house. Yeah. And I know landscapers that show, and they show up in like a Honda Civic, and 3 of them get out. They're super nice people.
Yeah.
Like I love them. Like we gave them great stuff at Christmas. And they show up the house, and it's $400 in there for 2 or 3 hours. A landscape crew would show up there with like a truck, a skid steer, a bunch of equipment, plate tappers and everything, and work that same amount of time and probably charge $300. Like, I'm going like, what's wrong here? Like, they have no CapEx investment.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll be honest with you, the training's more on the landscape side. To put in a pavers or to build like a retaining wall. But the dollars they charge are less.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, what's happening now is like, the more and more landscape companies that I'm talking to, and I'm starting to like get more into consulting, is like, let's look at pricing again. And some people are going to say, well, they're not going to pay that. But I think they would pay that.
Yeah.
You can't go way outside of market. Like if you're competing against 5 other people and it's all $100, whatever, and you're going to charge $400, you're not going to get it. But you're going to get $125. If you're better than them, and if you show up and you have nicer employees, and that's the problem right now. And sometimes it's hard for me because I hire what I would call blue collar industry people. I'm like, oh, the bill was high. But I'm always like to my wife, we're paying that because I know they're worth it.
Yeah.
A guy came out and fixed my hot water on demand the other day, and it was $350, and he showed up with a pail and a couple things to plug into it. $350. I'm like, the guy showed up in a van, didn't have any, like, you know what I'm talking about, like the CapEx in landscaping is crazy.
It's insane.
I think we were at a job once. Like we get there, we had the truck, the trailer, the skid steer. Back in the day, this is like,
so we had like about $100,000 of equipment on this one job site.
Liam's there, like I could even work. So Liam's in the skid steer. I'm like in the truck like this with my arms crossed. We're there for 2 hours. We charged $300. Like we're driving away. I'm like, the fuck are we doing? Like we could have just taken out like a power rake. Or like some sort of like, we could just mow lawns and make more money that time. Like there's something wrong with that equation there.
100%, and the amount of risk. I remember we were doing like skid steer hourly. This is back in the day, like 5 years ago, like $80 an hour. I was like, oh great, $80 an hour. I remember, I don't even know if I told you this actually, but I forgot to like attach like the trailer to the hitch of like the truck. Like it was just on there just by gravity because the skid steer was like weighing it down. And I was driving over like driving over bridges. And then I remember like getting off the skid steer and the whole trailer like went up and like crashed down after like on the truck. Yeah. And I was like thinking, I'm doing all of this for, I think I made $320 that day. I worked 4 hours. I was like, man, $100,000 worth of equipment. Almost died probably because of like all that. Like you got to really factor in like all that risk. Yeah. When you're going out and doing it. Luckily, I was fine.
Yeah, but like so many. Luckily, I was fine. Conversations. I plow into a girl driving by me, like with the Jeep and stuff. I have my excavator. I almost tipped over because I forgot to release the bucket. I didn't have my seatbelt on. Like things like that happen all the time. And that's what I actually love about like this industry in particular. There's something about the blue collar worker where there's a man coming to you. 99% men all the time, and those are guys who are going to show up for their families, do whatever it takes. Like you don't see that in other industries. Like you go to the bank, everyone like they're all so fancy. They think they have the best job in the world, but like they look down on you. But it's this blue collar person that shows up at 2 a.m. when your power goes out, your furnace breaks, and they're there to work hard for the individuals. Like 100%. The hardest working, best people I've met have been in this industry.
Yeah, so absolutely. The blue collar industry is very and the landscape lawn care, especially.
Blue collar, absolutely.
Yeah, it's all the same, and it doesn't matter if you're an electrician or a plumber or a mason. The skills and what's brought to the table has constantly been undervalued in our society. Now, it's going to become even worse as because there's not anybody going into it. There is starting to be a push, like get your kids back into trades, right? You see that on some of the educational material that's out there, and I think that's great. I met a young lady a couple nights like over Christmas at just kind of there was a party down the street. I went down there, and there's one husband and wife that was there, and they brought their daughter, and she's a apprenticing electrician. I thought, man, that's so awesome. I was just so proud to not only that she was embracing blue collar, but that she was female, because most of this stuff's pretty heady when you're doing electrical and plumbing. And hey, as we know, most women are smarter than we are. At least that's what my wife tells me all the time. And so they can be a great asset to get pulled into the trades, because for so many years they just weren't in the trades. Society just didn't see that females in that kind of, put on the overalls kind of, positioning. But I think that they add a lot of value to the blue collar and the trades, right? You know, US always had a high proportion of female workers. Always did. And we always found them to be great.
Yeah.
You know, we divided the work up to kind of like put it to, I think the women would like to do this more and the men would kind of want to do this. But what was really dramatic when we got into large configuration mowers, mostly doing city contracts and government contracts, we found that some of the best operators for the bigger mowers were women. Because for some reason, I don't know why, so there's two trees that are 14 feet apart and you got a 16-foot deck. Guys think they can drive that through that. I'm like, it's a 14-foot hole and it's a 16-foot deck. You can't go through the hole. Women just go, hey, it's a 14-foot hole on a 16-foot deck. I can't make it through that, so I'm going to have to put one wing up. I don't know. For some reason, guys are just idiots, and women were so much smarter. We're just like, you ramrods can't drive the equipment anymore, right?
Exactly.
So that the physicality of like picking up a rock, mugwall pick up rock, you know, well, all the females became operators, you know, tapped into the intellectual side. Okay, guys, you go be Hulks, and you guys try to put these, you know, 16-foot spruce trees in, and we got to hump into a backyard. And they like that, you know, because it gives them some type of, you know, worth, I guess. Go be the ox.
Guys and girls are so different. Like, my wife and I will go into the same situation sometimes, and like we'll leave talking about it. And she'll ask, "What do you think?" I'm like, "Oh, you know, it was good." She's like, "What do you mean?" And like brings up 20 to 30 things I didn't even have a clue happened there.
Yeah.
I showed up, I met the person, we had dinner, and I left. And like she brings up 40 things, and I think back, I'm like, well, I guess that did happen, kind of thing there too. We're oblivious.
Yeah,
so like we
there's
work so
completely
like men and women are supposed to be different, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you think where do you think AI is going to play into the lawn and landscape industry over the course of the next decade?
AI. You know, I'm like
going in like on like robotic mowers, or wasn't that like a big thing of yours?
Well, that's one of the new companies. So I'm on an advisory board for a robotics company, and they came to me to be on the board because they wanted to use, they want to automate lawnmowers they thought, well, we can kind of get in with ULS, they're a big player, and we can launch these mowers. And I immediately said, nope, that's not the place to start. I think we should pivot a little bit. I think you guys should go after the golf course industry.
Yeah.
So that's what we've done. So we've pivoted, and last year we did demos at 4 different golf courses. So in Calgary, now we've got 40 golf courses signed up, and we're in Phoenix in the biggest golf course trade show in the world. So that's at the end of January, and we're kind of doing the big reveal of our product and what we're trying to do with automation and autonomous lawnmowers. Again, I said let's go to the golf course environment just because it's more static, right? So when you're usually cutting a golf course, there's no people around. There's not a dog. There's not a mom pushing their kid or a dad pushing their kid in a baby buggy. Let's get away from all those worries around the liability and just get out on a golf course, environment where a lot of these golf courses are like 3-dimensionally built, and you can get all that and plug it into the machine. And there's just and the golf course industry's really been embracing it so far.
You can mow at nighttime too, couldn't you? In the middle of the night if it's hot.
Well, there's some stuff to do with like what's going on with like moisture and stuff on turf.
Yes.
Right. Like especially when you're in places like Alberta where you get kind of that real cooling at night, and then it warms back up and you get dew and stuff on the grass. So, but there is sometimes we could cut at night. You're going to see more and more about that come out. I can send you guys the link after. You can take a look at it. It's pretty cool. But then AI is like, I kind of look at autonomous. I don't know if that's really AI. There is some AI in our stuff because what we're doing is we put a box on the machine. This is one of the reasons why ours is different. So we put a box on the machine, and so the operator will run that machine for a month. The box is collecting all the data, like what's the best cutting patterns, when did the machine have to stop, what were some of the things that came up that caused you to hit the stop button or touch the brake, and then it takes all that information and through AI starts to build mowing routes. So you can cut different ways all the time. What's the quickest way? Like let's say you got a vent and you look at all the data, like if you cut it this way, and you guys know this, like if you stop and always want to stripe it, it takes longer than if you just keep continuously cutting in a circle. Well, let's say the vent starts in 50 minutes and you got 17 different times to cut it. Where's one that's under 50 minutes? We got to get this done, and you push that on the mower, and it'll go cut it in 49 minutes.
I see. Wow.
Right. Whereas sometimes if you want to stripe it because there's an event coming and you want it to look better, it's going to take an hour and 17 minutes.
Yeah.
The machine's constantly. So I think where you're going to see a lot of AI take away jobs is kind of more in the white collar world. And again, that's why I think, this is the joking, book Rise of the Blue Collar Worker is coming. Because how are you still need somebody in there doing a lot of the work.
Absolutely.
Right.
I also think too with like the baby boomers right now, they're all 60, 70, like almost right now, and like they're going to be a lot more demand for residential. For people that just don't want to do it anymore. They don't want to cut their own lawn.
Yep.
So I think right now is a great time to be a part of the blue collar.
There's
no one wants to go into. They always want to go to crypto or YouTube or something that's like a lot more sexy or whatever.
Isn't sexy.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's never going. Like I know for a fact, grass is going to grow like for infinite like time. Like insurance, all those things. Like they're boring, but they're very like reliable. You know? And those are the industries that you sort of want to go into.
Yeah.
Because you just know it's very predictable.
Make grass sexy again.
Exactly.
I think we need to in a way.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
You guys should get underwear. Like I'm going to give you my idea because just get grass and just say grass is sexy and just nice tight briefs.
Write that one down. Absolutely.
Give away to employees panties and underwear.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you'd get away with it. That's a good way. If somebody gets mad about that and quits, you don't want them on the team. You know what I mean? It's a good litmus test, right?
It is. And that should be part of the interview. By the way, put this on right now.
Well, I don't know if it has to be right now. Would you accept this gift from us? No, I don't. I find it offensive. Well, you can't work here then.
Yeah, sorry.
But yeah, I mean, I hate to say this because you hear this AI question all the time, but some of the times my response is I don't give a shit. Right? Yeah. I'll worry about it when I have to worry about it. When I started ULS, there was no cell phones. Mm-hmm. When ULS started, there was no email.
Yeah.
When ULS started, there was no texting. Yeah. Well, I can email and I can text and I can use my computer now and everything. And we didn't even have any computers at ULS for probably the first 10 years.
Wow.
Everything was on paper. Yeah. We had these big kind of like cards that we had for all our clients, and it was just one card. Like if you lost it, you lost the billing for the year. But it was like harbored in a fireproof safe, and every Friday we updated the cards, and then the cards just got pulled out and you billed off of them. Wow. It's probably the easiest system ever, but that's how we did it. So, when people get too caught up in trying to think of what's coming, I mean, if you're doing it because it's part of your business model or you need to, you're in that space, then that's great. But, I don't know. So I think a lot of times people waste a lot of time and money trying to figure out what the next greatest thing is. Like I always said, don't be bleeding edge. You know what I mean? In your business, like I made that mistake at ULS a few times because all this stuff where data collection out in the field, I kind of wanted to figure that out before it was really readily available. And I dumped about $500,000 into working with a company out of England to try to get that to work for ULS. And then finally I just said, forget it. And then all of a sudden, a couple more years later, like software programs like LMN came out and stuff like that. Then I'll just pay a user fee and it's done. Right?
Exactly.
And so you gotta stick to what you're trying to do. Like, excavation companies, landscape companies, whatever, they're not companies that are involved in building out the internet. They're not tech companies. 100%. Just do what you do, right? Like that's the greatest thing in line. You show up at somebody's house and they're like, "Well, we're talking about a bunch of stuff." Oh, no, I'm just here to dig a hole. And I'm good at it. Yeah. I'm going to dig you the nicest hole you've ever seen, and then I'm going to leave, and you're going to pay me for it. And they just look at you like you're an alien. Well, I didn't come here to fucking decide, what's your dog's name, or I'm not here to like help you with your psychological problems. I'm here to dig a hole. Yeah. Right? And it's refreshing. I just want somebody to come and do what they say.
And actually show up.
And show up.
What they said they're going to charge
and
you.
do a good job. And that's why I'm like, I just go like this isn't that hard to figure out.
I agree. I would sort of counter though, maybe not in the commercial, but the residential, there are some really cool things. Like especially when you take into account like overhead salaries, like there's like AI softwares like right now that can answer like all the calls and do all the CRM work. So
okay.
If you're paying like 20% to overhead, which like we are like currently, and you can lower that to like whatever 5% by just automating it and have calls answered 24/7. Yeah, there are some pretty cool things, and then your profits go way up. Yeah. But with that being said, though, I know over time it's going to be like everyone's going to have it, and the price is going to go down. Like right now, it's extremely expensive if you actually want to do that. It's like $500,000.
Well, you think what was the first thing you guys replaced, outsourced or hired for in your company?
Ever?
Yeah, like when you first are starting to grow, and what was your first employees? Like obviously there was some labor components, but then after that, what was the first thing you dumped off your plate?
The customer service rep.
Yeah, administration. Administration is the biggest payback in any company. Once it's scaled up, the owner should never be doing it.
Yeah.
It's your biggest payback. You get somebody in for, back in my day it was 30 grand or 25, 28 grand, got you somebody, and all of a sudden I'm like, holy smokes, I got all this extra time now.
Yeah.
It was the biggest payback, right? And it's going to be the same thing with AI. That's what's going to happen. It's going to take those type of jobs away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%.
Which are white collar, but how's AI going to go out and dig the hole?
They're never.
It can't. Like robot's going to show up and start.
No.
Like,
well, it might, but it'll be.
Maybe. I think that's a ways down the road, honestly. Yeah,
you guys will be dead.
Exactly. Not my problem. That sort of thing there too.
I hate to tell you, buddy, but you're going to be dead too. They won't be digging my grave with an AI excavator.
Exactly.
You're going to be a good old, probably like a mini excavator.
Yeah, exactly.
A little 305. I'll be shrunken down by then.
Yeah. If you can rewind a little bit too, like I know we talked about like you're growing to like 100 million. Right now we are currently at 2 million.
Yeah.
We want to get to 10 million like in the next like few years.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for people like me and him who like we still have our hands like in administration a little bit, in sales, in a little bit of operations. Like we're still not fully like hands off.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for me and James to grow from where we are $2 million right now to get to the $10 million?
And your advice that you gave us 5 years ago, by the way, worked really well.
Yeah.
We met at Starbucks on 16th, and you said, hey guys, if you want to be $1 million company, start acting like one.
Yeah.
And like we made some big changes from that. Like,
Yeah.
There's some, we could make some changes too quickly for the best, but like that worked very well for us. So yeah, Liam's question, we're at 2. How do we get to 10? How do we get that 30? Like
and a lot of people make it really complicated, like when they think about it. But if you just kind of think of, your business is a big pipe. You think of it as a big pipe. Let's make it an aluminum pipe. Mm-hmm. And then you start to look at that and you might make an arrow somewhere in there. There's going to be a kink in that pipe. And what that kink in the pipe represents is a restriction in either profitability or revenue growth. So you guys have to identify what's holding you back. So it might be, contract acquisition and then, different things. So you have to kind of like put them all down in a list. And when you look at all these kinks in the pipe that don't let it flow, that $10 million flow, then you can start to work on them. So there's going to be a combination for your business of like, you're going to have customer acquisition, but with that becomes, capital acquisition because you're going to need more trucks and then there's more training. Yeah. So, for you guys, it's probably not one thing. It's going to be probably a combination of things. And the other thing too that a lot of people say, well, you were so successful building this big company. Well, I kind of always jokingly say like it was a 34-year overnight success because nothing builds great companies better than time and effort. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, they'll put in the effort, but only for 2 years. Yeah. They'll put the effort in for 5 years. I say to people now, I won't even get involved in anything if people don't come to me and say like we got to stick this out for 5 years and bust our ass.
Yeah.
You're not going to do it that quickly. It's a fool's bet.
Yeah.
Because if you could do it in a year, why isn't everybody else doing it in a year? What gets rid of most competitors and what gets rid of most people is they're not willing to stick it out. And you guys now are at 2 million. You guys asked me before how to get to 1. Well, you passed that. And because you just keep showing up, keep putting it in, and maybe it doesn't happen in 4 years, but maybe it happens in 6. But it happened in 6 years. What you guys are doing, you've picked a really, one thing I think that one of my bigger mistakes was pick one part of this industry because there's so many different things. When people think of landscaping, it's just it's
so broad.
Do you cut grass? You do herbicide applications. Yeah. But you guys are a bit more niche, and I think the most successful companies are niche companies that just pound that as hard as they can and get rid of all those pipe restrictions and make that company the best. And when they come to you and say, "Can you step outside of the box and do this for me?" You look at them and go, "Really wish we could, Mr. Jones, but we don't do that. We do this because we want to be the best in the world at this." Yeah. And you know what? That guy is probably going to respect you for that. They're not going to say, James and Liam, I wish you guys did all this other stuff. He's going to go, man, I'm going to keep you for this because you two guys got it figured out. Yeah. But these ones and I was kind of like that, like when you see a cat and somebody's got a laser pointer and they're going like that and they're running all around the room, and... Yeah. for me, it was good because I was resilient and I could keep resetting and I could take a beating and get back up, but it's not the best way to go through it. Like, but if you can find that one thing, and if you, and you look at margin too, is going to tell you, like, don't pick the one that has low margin. You want to pick the ones that have higher margin.
100%.
And you guys know the secret sauce, because that's why I think you guys are doing what you're doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, what you said with like niching it absolutely is very true. Like, you grow by saying no. You grow by saying no like 20 times more often you say yes.
Yeah.
Then you can be the best. You can charge a lot more. You're known for that.
Yeah.
You know, right? Yeah.
So, Steve, the majority of our audience is someone, usually a mom and pop shop. They're running their own lawn care company. When I say lawn care, that's usually mowing, but also they can do fertilizer, weed control, snow removal, etc.
Yeah.
And most of them, about 90%, if not 95%, are under $1 million.
Yeah.
Business owners, like, usually when someone says they're in business, 90% of the time they're under $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
And the next little bit is like probably up to like that 30-ish million.
100%.
And then from there you get to that 0.1%, that's $100 million from there.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone that is trying, they're on a couple $100,000 a year right now, they want to hit that $1 million, but they're stuck sort of being that mom and pop shop. They're jumping on the tools a lot. They don't know where to grow. They don't know how to hire. What would you say to that person to get them, how do you hit the $1 million?
Well, I think the first thing I'd ask them is, do you want to be $1 million company? Because it's a different mindset, right? And I think $1 million, I mean, I hate to say it now, but $1 million isn't what it used to be.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? Like, if somebody said, oh, you know, here's $1 million, I'm going to retire, I'd be like, oh, you're barely going to make it. I hope you're going to die in 4 years. You know, I mean, the way I spend money. But, you know, I think you first you have to ask yourself, you know, do you want to be this? You know, I knew it. I was okay. Because I right away because I was a mom and pop shop, I was trying to feed kids and stuff, and I was like, I can't afford people, I can't slow down enough to like get my hands around the business to delegate. So it's just like, I'm going to make as much as I can all the time, and I'm going to do whatever I can on my own. You know, I'm not hiring anybody if I don't need them. I'm not getting, you know, experts or consultants in here. I'm not buying software. I'll keep it on a pad. And that was what I wanted to do. And then all of a sudden I started thinking about it when I said, okay, this is really what I'm going to do. I said, I don't want to be that guy anymore. That was, I can remember it exactly, like, maybe not to the day, but to the kind of like the seasonal, like it was the spring or the fall of.
Something happened?
Yeah, I know. I just went, well, what it was is I got sick and I was doing snow removal and I'm by myself. And I get up in the morning and I was throwing up in the toilet. And I'm like, if I don't go out today, what are my clients going to say, like, when I don't show up? Because I'm like, they always be, Steve comes no matter what. Like, that was kind of my thing. Like,
Steve will do it.
Yeah, and I'd be playing ball hockey with their kids for like, I can only play for 10 minutes because I got to shovel all the snow, and the mom and dads all knew me. Everybody knew me, and I had only residential clients, and I had a pile of them, and they were just like, this dude is solid. I get up in the morning, I'm throwing up in the toilet. I'm like, what am I going to do? And I just went out. And it took me like 12 hours to do 6 hours of work, and it just about killed me. And like, I was in really good shape and I was young, but it was just the most god-awful 12 hours. I mean, it almost felt like an out-of-body experience when I got through it, because I can't believe I did it.
Yeah. And
I was so dehydrated and I couldn't keep any food down. So I realized if I just puked everything and kept working, but it was like all shovel work and, you know, hauling around a big heavy snow. So I just was done. I didn't look good when I was finished. I didn't feel well. And then I said, this is just the moment where I have to realize what's going to happen as I age. What happens when I can't get up and work like this? Because physically I'm going to break down. It's no different than an athlete. I better get the biggest contract now, because I'm like, now in the NHL, like, if you make it to 35, you know, there's no Chris Chelios is wheeling around at 51 anymore, or Prongers, right?
Yeah.
You're done at 35 almost. Like, you know, a few guys will hang around to 40 maybe, like Pavelski or somebody like that. So then I just said, okay, I have to look at it differently. And as soon as I did that, then all your decisions change. Your decision is, how do I create enough revenue so that I can delegate things off? But you have to want it. You have to be able to stand back and let other people do it. And it takes a whole different skill set to do. You know, and it's just, everybody uses the word delegate, but delegation starts with changing your mind. Saying, instead of doing it, I'm going to teach others how to do it. So you have to go from being a doer to being a teacher. And see, that's where people get confused, because they just say, oh, I just want to grow this business. Well, forget about that. Great, but are you ready to change? So that's what I'd ask them. Are you ready to change? And if they tell me, yeah, what do I have to do to change? And I explain it to them, then I'd say, okay, let's start off small. Let's find some easy stuff to delegate. And you can never do it. And they always say the same thing, but I know I could do that in an hour and it might take that person 4 hours. Okay, well, there's the first test. Can you sit there and watch somebody else muddle through it and not get out of your truck?
It's so hard. Like you're on the sales call with them, like the client gives the objection. I'm like, I know exactly what to say.
Yeah.
I've done this 5,000 fucking times.
Yeah.
Doesn't do it. I'm like, oh, like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is
Yeah.
funny, sure.
But so this is where it's kind of this learning. It's like like I said, changing from a doer to a teacher or a mentor or whatever you want to call it. And it doesn't matter. Like a lot of people think mentors and teachers have to be old. It can happen at any time. Like the teacher gets better because hopefully that they're getting taught by somebody else. And so this is lineage of teaching others how to do things and passing it on. And it's a skill that it's kind of a dying art in a lot of ways too. I mean, my dad could fix almost anything in the house. Did he really teach me much of that? Not really, but it wasn't really my dad's fault. It was because I didn't want to learn it.
yeah.
That's why now there's more blue collar people needed, because if you're 30 years old, buy a house, you don't know anything. You can't even change your air filter, for crying out loud. Yeah. So again, when somebody says I want to be $1 million, are you ready to change your mindset? The other thing is are you okay with staying where you are? Maybe that's good. I mean, like you said it, there's only, people don't realize there's a book by Vern Harnish called Scaling Up, and I think it's one of the better business books I've ever read. And there's only about 12,000 companies in the US over 30 million.
Yeah, it's 1% or whatever, 0.2% or something like that.
Yeah.
It's marginal. Yeah.
And when you get to 30 million, you become what's called a hyper-sized company, and that's where you basically have to have everything running like a big corporation, and then things kind of chunk off. At 30 million and at 500 employees, everything just gets replicated. You have to have another 500 people generate. It's everything has to be recreated.
Yeah.
You got an HR department in San Francisco, now you need a whole HR department in New York. You've got these components of people and they have to be duplicated. That's around this $30 million mark. Most businesses, like you said, are what I call wage businesses. So I could go and work at the city of Calgary and make $100,000, or I can do my own thing, have my own landscape company and make $100,000 a year. And the one thing, there's a book out there, so the 10 things that Revenue Canada doesn't want you to know. And the number one thing in that book is own your own business. Because whether you want to be $1 million company or $200,000 company, the only way to control tax from the Canadian government is to have your own business, because then you can at least make decisions on how your money is spent, and you can make decisions on how you're going to use those dollars to create more money. When you work for somebody else, they usually just take the tax up, right? Everybody gets a T4. The company takes the tax. When you own a business, you get it, you fill out the forms, and then you pay the tax. So there's a lot of advantages of, even if you can talk to them and they don't really want to do that, they say, I don't want to be a teacher and delegate all this stuff, I just want to do it, well, then that's fine. Then just be the best company like that, because there's a lot of advantages. I mean, I'm pretty sure most contractors run their trucks through their companies.
Oh, yeah, for sure. 100%.
Most do. And so right there's an advantage. And there's so many advantages of that. So you just got to decide, it's not so much, it's got to be the person's decision to make that jump. And then a lot of people say they want to do it, but their actions don't.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, because we always had the mentality, we want to grow. But we couldn't really, the mentality was there, we really wanted to, but we just didn't have the skills, we didn't have the knowledge, right? So I think one big thing was the mentorship that we got. I applaud you, Steve, for taking James's call, because you give the story of how that actually happened. I think that really accelerated. That was a catalyst for us to really grow. It's calling people that have done it before and just picking their brain and taking that learning curve for maybe 20 years and shortening it down to 1 or 2 years.
And people that have done it, they want to help people that are actually asking.
Oh yeah,
there, essentially.
I think so. Yeah,
we live in a society where nobody asks for things. They're too scared to ask. But the worst that can happen is they say no. So what we did is we were watching YouTube. We found Steve Wheatcroft, watching some things. This is the guy. So call ULS, talk to the receptionist. Hey, I was looking for Steve. Oh, Steve's not in right now. All right, well, hey, and gave voicemail and stuff. Took more follow-up calls, and before we know it, we're meeting in person to talk. And every single time we've done that, people that we met with the person, gosh, conversations like this save decades of trial and error and experience from there. So like, you are one mentor away from tripling, quadrupling, 10x in your business. But you need to want it, and you got to be able to ask for it and look for it.
That'd be like the advice, I think, at least for me. Or like, if you're at 100, 200, 300 grand, it's like just get somebody like a mentor that's done it before in a different like.
For sure.
And just
like Mark Bradley from LMN's a smart guy, and when I get a chance and me and Mark sit down and have dinner or something or have a conversation, we have a lot of similar thoughts that go through our minds, and we talk the same language, so it's pretty refreshing to talk to Mark. And he's done a great job with LMN, but he's big adamant about joining peer groups, right? So he has his whole process of driving companies through peer groups, and he has all his product offerings that he has. But just for me, I think some of the biggest quantum jumps I did was going to trade shows like SIMA, like the Snow and Ice Management Association. I used to use a software called Clip, so I'd go to the Clip conference every year in Washington, D.C. And I always said the same thing. I didn't learn very much in the classes, but I learned everything in the hallway, or going out for a beer after. So, I met a guy in SIMA named Dan Gillian, and he was a snow contractor in Kansas City. They only have maybe 7 inches a year. And he told me how he did it. He mostly used subcontractors, and he went through all that. And it was funny because me and Dan kind of really hit it off. And then for years, me and Dan would talk, and I would say, Dan, here's what's going on. And he's like, okay, you got to do this. You got to do this. And I'll never forget the day when I phone up Dan. I go, Dan's this. And he's like, I don't know what to tell you. You're bigger than me and better now. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I can't help you, Steve. Like, I've never thought you'd get that big. And then all of a sudden, a year or two passed, and me and Dan we didn't talk quite as much. And then one day Dan called me up and said, Steve, I got a problem. Can you help me with it? And now all of a sudden, here I am helping Dan. And but Dan helped me for all these years and was a huge mentor to me and gave me lots of advice. And if Dan didn't know, he would say, when you're at SIMA this year, go talk to this guy. And I always said, I'd learned everything in the hallway, going up to people. So if you're a smaller company, you want to grow, hang around with the people you want to be like, right?
Absolutely.
That's when you look at people in their life and you go, how did they become this way? You need to look about who they hung out with. Who was their friends? What was their family like? And that'll tell you a lot, right? Because if you hang around with people that are deceivious, aren't living the best life, cheating, stealing, then you become a criminal. Because that's what you learn. And in some cases, you can be pretty good at it, because that's who you learn from. But if you grow up around people that are supportive, that are great business minds, that are running great companies, and you want to hang around those type of people, then that's what you're going to become.
Absolutely, yeah. You're just some of the 5 people, right? You're the average of the 5 people, right?
Yeah, and that's just and some of the stuff seems so basic, but the problem that I find, and it's great to be on a podcast, we're doing all this talking, but I've always said, when I talk to somebody, I go, are they dream talking? Or are they really talking? Yeah. Because a lot of people do this thing, what I call dream talking. So I'll meet with them and they'll start to talk and they'll tell me about all these great ideas. And so when is this going to start? When are you guys going to start doing this or whatever? And they'll be like, well, we're not sure yet, but it's going to happen. But we're going to do all this stuff. And it just keeps going on. And I'm sure you've run into those type of people too. And then I get up from the table and I know it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
What's the difference, you think?
Well, the difference is when somebody says, I'm just going to do this. It'd be like quicker talk. Instead of like an hour telling me what they're going to do, I'm going to do this, and in 15 minutes, and I go, well, how are you going to do that? And they go, well, tomorrow I'm going to get up, and I got a meeting with Ford, and I'm going to buy this truck, and then I'm going to hire these guys, and I got some ads going in next week. I'm like, okay, they're going to do it. Because they're not just dream talking, they're actually action.
They're getting there, I find like that's a good point. Like they just get their hands dirty and they just start doing it. They're not talking about, I'm going to brand it this way and I'm going to hire the account. I'm
going to buy the logo.
I'm going to buy the logo,
website, the domain and stuff. How about you just go knock on some fucking doors?
Exactly.
And get some sales?
Let's get some sales first. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like you don't need all that stuff. Like when I've done other companies now, I've been pretty good about building out the kind of what I would call the business card, right? Like the website, and you pretty well have to have one now. And having that feel and look of the company, I'm pretty big on doing that up front. But I just have some companies that I use, and I just call them up and I'm like, get it done. Because I can afford to do that. I can just drop $5,000-$6,000. Like, I don't even think about it. Like, for me, it's like, I don't want to worry about this. You guys will see in 2 months. Let's send me something every week. And then let's get going, right? But there's so many people that just talk about it. And it's the same thing with fitness, right? Like, I always laugh, and, I'm not as adamant as I used to be, but I've always been in fairly good shape, and especially against my age group. And they're like, oh, like my buddies, they all gain weight. And they're out of shit. Like, how do you do it? How do you do it? And like, I just get up in the morning and I walk in the gym, and then I just do whatever. I lift weights, or I ride the bike, or I walk the dog an extra hour. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. And then like 2 months later, they've gained 10 pounds and they haven't done anything. But they want to do it, but they keep talking about it. I'm going to do it. Like, so those people, I'm not saying they're bad people. I just get to the point where it's not going to happen. They're just going to keep talking about it forever. Yeah. And we've all had people like that in our life that talk and talk about it. But action is, talk's like gas and action's a match, right? You got to have some ideas, but you got to light the fire there, and you got to make things happen. And sometimes you get kicked in the nuts pretty hard.
100%.
And but that's where the learning comes, right?
Absolutely.
I heard a good saying once. It's like, don't put your wishbone where your backbone ought to be.
Interesting.
Everyone and that sort of brings back to university. We were talking at the very start of the year. So when I'm in Haskayne, I found like my biggest complaint was like it's all theory, and everyone gets these ideas.
And probably outdated too.
All that. Well, it changes so often. I did marketing. Yeah. Guess what? There wasn't a single course on Google AdWords, and that showed the whole thing. Because we were all talking about like magazines and stuff. Like, so like people get into university and they get so theoretical about things. And yes, it's important to think, and you want to work smarter than harder, but like it takes away from the fact that, listen, okay, so what are the action steps you're going to do from this idea? It's huge. Like, I think universities have been failing us, and they're so overpriced now. They're giving all these young people these wishy-washy feelings about, I'm going to leave university and I'm going to get that job for $200,000 a year.
And people are going to be like begging me to come work.
Begging me. And then they graduate from good, credible things that used to get a job no matter what, but now they're graduating, a good engineer, and they can't find work.
Oh, yeah,
like, what's going on there? But the tradesperson, you'll go become a good electrician, plumber, you start into the dirt life.
They're paying you to go to school, and you're making significant income when you get out of school.
Yeah.
And then down the road, you might start your own business, and you're really getting up to like that $200,000-$300,000. You really start to make some good money when you're like 25, 30.
Well, if you take 100 people and put them in trade school, and 100 people and put them in business school, just randomly, out of those 200 people, there's certain people that have the ability to run businesses and be leaders and I always like to use the word inspire over motivation, because there's a difference.
What's the difference?
They got a way to inspire. So just let me those. It doesn't matter if the guy's an electrician. It doesn't matter if he takes business school. You just look across the 200 people and go, I want that guy and that guy, whether it's a plumber, electrician, or like an accounting. Like, some of the best people that have ever worked for me came from other areas. Like, I had an engineer once, and he wanted to come and work there. I'm like, why? He goes, I've just got so out of my body, Steve. I just need to reconnect. And he was an older guy, and he came and worked at ULS. He worked there for 2 years. He lost 48 pounds. Nice. He was in tears when he left. He said, it's the best job I've ever had. He saved my life. Like, he was depressed. He had mental issues. Guy came out of there like a rock star.
Wow.
And he was one of the best workers I've ever had. He was a little slow at the start, but man, by the end of it, he was an ass kicker. Nice. So, but I was talking about motivation, inspiration. I think there's a big difference in those two. So when I think of people that are motivating, like they always say, you got to motivate. So motivate, you see it all the time. Like, there's somebody on, a video or something on TikTok or whatever, and they're kind of yelling at you, or you're like trying to rile everybody up. You're at the start of the hockey game and you're screaming, and you see that where somebody's sitting on the bench, and again they're like, come on, let's get out there, let's do this, right? Yeah. And then there's a guy on the bench that doesn't do he's just silent. And the game's maybe out of hand, and he just skates out. He takes one big loop, hits the guy in the corner, drops the gloves, and beats the living shit out of somebody and skates off. The guy that was yipping and didn't do anything was trying to motivate the guy that skated across the ice and laid somebody out and beat him to within an inch of his life, and then went back and sat down and said, I got everybody's back. He inspired. Yeah. So again, motivation is talk-based typically. And I've been called a good motivator, and that's fine because I understand there's a reason to do it. But I think that I've helped inspire people because that's just by action.
By leading by example.
And leading by example,
yeah,
right?
Sure, yeah.
Right. And you can do it. You know, sometimes it's hard to just lead by example because you can try to lead by example, but if nobody's watching you, it could be a lot of wasted time.
Yeah.
So you better enjoy it. So I think when you inspire, it's because people are connected to what they're doing. They like doing it. So people see them and they're like, man, I'm inspired by that guy. Like, he's a painter, but it's so inspirational. I don't know how he can paint 10 hours a day and he cranks out all this beautiful work or whatever it is. Musicians, like, you know, I was talking to a guy the other day. I said, how'd you get so good at guitar? He said, well, for 3 years, I played 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
That's all he said to me. Because it was like a brief conversation. Like, this guy wasn't going to give me a lot of floor time. You know, I just mentioned it to him real quick. And that's what he told me. And I was like, I found that super inspiring. Yeah. Just that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how the hell could a guy do 8 hours a day for 3 years?
Crazy.
Now, maybe he did it 5 days a week, but I could tell he probably did.
And what's cool is while he was doing it, he probably didn't know if it was going to work out. He was enjoying it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a big difference. So if you're always yelling at people, and that's why you'll see some coaches where they flare out. The team just stops listening to them. The guy's just trying to motivate all the time by yelling. And sometimes the yelling's not negative yelling, but it's just, it's the same thing. And then there's some coaches that they might be inspirational to their players because their players find out, he's out helping homeless people. I want to play for that guy, right? 100%. And that's the difference, right?
Very cool. I guess, I want to ask you a question. Was there ever like a pivotal moment when you're growing like ULS that you had like, you sort of described like back 30 minutes ago, where you just got freaking like knocked down so bad? We got knocked down really hard last year in 2022.
Yeah.
We did not know our numbers. We did not know our financials. We were just going for growth.
Yeah.
And there was so much capex we were like unpredicting, and we just almost like went bankrupt.
Yeah.
Was there a time when you're growing that like, holy shit, it was like a full like wake up call?
Oh yeah.
What was that like, and what was the experience?
Well, that wasn't like once. That was like probably 2 or 3 times.
Got it. What was the biggest one?
The biggest one would have been probably around 2017, and we got put into special accounts management, which is basically like where they put you into a program at the bank where they're basically on the verge of shutting your company down.
This is recent.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And how much revenue?
We had probably like 25 million in revenue.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, and we had a couple covenants out on our financials, and they came in. And I really think what happened is that the bank decided that they didn't want to bank that type of industry. So that's where sometimes you'll see your company, like where you'll have account manager and they're all like great and you're getting along and everything's happening. And then, things aren't perfect in your business, but you can correct it. And then one day it's just like a complete change. And that day came, it was like a storm front blew in. Like my account manager showed up with 2 other people from the bank, and he looked like a gutted fish. I knew we're screwed.
Really?
So when he walked in, he just was pasty white because he didn't want to
talk about it.
He didn't want to talk about it. He didn't believe that we should be treated this way.
Yeah.
But somebody from Toronto probably phoned up and said, this is what's happening with these companies. So when we got put in special accounts management, then it was scary, because what happens is they start to put restrictions on your business. So they'll start to cut your line back, and they give you a time frame. So in 3 months from now, we're going to cut your line from $1 million to 700, and interest rates go up. So you're in trouble, you're in distress, but they're making it harder. I liken it to, drowning, and somebody's like, instead of throwing you a life preserver, keeps throwing you like weights. Yeah. And you're trying to like swim, but there's no help. Yeah. Really what they're trying to do is they're trying to force you to leave the bank.
Got it.
And so if you're smart, that's what you do. You figure a way to get away from them. Yeah, which is what we did. We just found a better dance partner, and a bank that believed in our industry. But it was scary. And we had another time we almost went bankrupt too, and then we just had to do a quick pivot. But most of the time when, like I said, the 2 or 3 times that I've been right up against the wall, I kind of have a formula to get out of the hole. Mm-hmm. Some guys just don't have the guts to do it, and some people can. And you just gotta kind of follow it, and you can probably make it out.
For sure. I think that's one big thing. Is just like I'm not sure. Like last year, like we thought cash equals profits, so we were going to be profitable. but
Yeah.
we didn't think that, we thought cash was the same as profits, right?
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
Money in the bank.
But
Yeah,
then
good to go.
CapEx
Or no.
doesn't
Yeah.
hit the P&L, it hits the balance sheet.
Yeah.
You know, and then all this cash gets sucked away, and we were in a massive hole too. Like we are very much the same thing. Like we're probably like 50 grand away from like literally personal guarantees. We have 150 grand personal guarantee each or whatever of like shutting down. So like then we had to take some accounting courses. Now we like figure it out, but we had no idea about the numbers. So like when people do get over like that $1 million mark, like you need to know. You got to be like an accountant pretty much.
You need, you know, and then like I said, Mark Bradley's always like that. You better know your numbers, and I'm, you know, that was probably my weakest part of my business acumen, but. I say that about myself, but others are like, well, no, I mean, I know my way around financial statements, especially after working with private equity for 5 years. Like, I probably learned more about financials in the last 5 years than I did in the 30 years before that. But, you know, I have my simple saying is, you know, top line vanity, bottom line sanity, cash flow is king.
Yes.
So I said, write that on your, you know, arm. And look at it every day, because you know, just because you got top line numbers doesn't mean anything, you know. And you got to make profitability, but if you have no cash, you're done.
Exactly.
Like cash is like, you know, when you look at a business, cash is basically blood, the blood of a business. So you have a body, and you got your heart, and you got your lungs, and you're super healthy. All they got to do is just stick a hose in you and suck all your blood out. You die as a human being. Same with the business. If you don't have any blood in it, you're done, and that's all cash is. So you got to make sure that it's circulating and that you have a healthy amount of it, or you're done.
Absolutely.
Just go get matching tattoos after. Cash is king.
yeah.
Every single day.
Big grass sexy, exactly.
Yeah.
Steve, I heard you say once that you have a very good experience hiring weird people. Sometimes the weirder the better. Can you talk about that?
Oh yeah. Well, I always thought, you know, it takes a different person to do this type of job. So I always kind of looked for that person that was like, you know, if you liken it to a bird, you know, birds have two wings, but maybe they just had one that was a little bit damaged, but in a good way. Yeah. So they might just be quirky, or they might just maybe dress a little bit differently, or they just came from a different background than myself. I mean, we had that point where we had all these hockey guys and women. They were all sports-based. But underneath those people, there's just, they get so regimented because they were higher-end athletes, so they're trained. And they're just, I thought in my mind that they were craving an ability to, like, really what they wanted to do is they, you know, they wanted to go to Burning Man, or they wanted to like drink a 26 or a whiskey, or like take a whole bunch of drugs and get fucked up, right? But they couldn't, because they were like playing in the Western Hockey League and they're like getting mandated. So my thought was, well, maybe if they kind of got to hang out with some weird people, they would get along. Yeah. And the funny part is these people would never meet in a normal course of life. Because they just come from such different backgrounds, and they kind of viewed each other like, oh, they're the jocks, and you know, it'd be like The Breakfast Club, that movie, right? Like, you know, Judd Nelson's the weed smoking guy, and then there's the wrestling guy, which was Emilio Estevez. But when they got locked in The Breakfast Club, they became friends. So, you know, we brought in some really quirky, weird people. And a lot of those people were more of the, actually, to be honest with you, more of the horticulture-based people, because they just took a different path through life. But this kind of mixing and then making sure that we just watched and kind of fostered these relationship building, I thought it was just fantastic, you know. And I always found that we had some great guys. We had this guy, Rob King, that worked for us, and he managed the Blockbuster down on 17th when was like, that's how old you all is. There was still a Blockbuster, and he was just this movie buff, and like, oh, how are you, like, what movie should I watch? I'm going on the road this year, and like, you know, you would have never talked to this guy, I bet you, if you didn't work with him. But Rob was such a great guy, and you know, he ended up passing away. Like, he had to leave ULS because he got cancer and he passed away. We got a big poster of him in our shop, but he was just such a quirky, weird dude. But if you got a chance to sit with him and talk with him, like, unbelievable. Like when he was way back in like this, because he would have probably been about maybe even 70 now. You know, and I was younger, so I was like 35, and I hired him. He was like 50, but he was in like a punk band, and he'd like went on a tour, and he'd been all through the States, and I can't remember. I think he opened for some really like notable bands and stuff. But he was just a weird dude, but by the end, everybody loved him. He just became like the god of you. Like you just like, well, his name was Rob King. Like, you know,
was
you
that
recall
a training facility like named after him? Or
yeah.
Okay, it was Rob King. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so we named the whole training facility
That's
after him.
awesome.
And that, you know, and that's where, you know, we kind of realized that, you know, and then we kind of had all these hockey players mostly, and then all of a sudden we kind of made a deal with the Calgary Rugby Club. We started hiring rugby players. Well, the rugby guys were from Australia and New Zealand, and they were like weird dudes for the hockey. But then all of a sudden it's like, hey, I'm going to try to play rugby. You know, it's all, and all this kind of, and it was weird. And the same thing with, you know, we had a lot of just different people that were, you know, more into the arts, a little bit more, you know, artsy kind of people. And then we had these athletes. But I always found that when we found these weird, quirky people, they just made it so much funner.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, when I always said, like, you're driving around these trucks all day with people, you better get along with them.
Oh, absolutely. It makes or breaks your day.
It does.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. And so if you have somebody that's interesting and different than you, you know, it's okay to hang out with like-minded people, but sometimes it's kind of neat to just to fall off the edge, and it was just an easy way to kind of foster that. So we brought some pretty quirky cats in, that's for sure. Good people, though.
Yeah, same with like us, like this like past year. Like there's like 3 interesting people. Interesting people, you know, like
Yeah.
Do like but they would barbecue. We're talking, and the guys tell me about like these like raves he went through the weekend and stuff. I'm like, I would have never guessed that. I'm like, listen to this guy talk. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, exactly.
This is something else.
But they are very solid workers. They work great. They work great with the guys, and they would stay here like until like 6 p.m. just talking, playing ping pong like right here. And it was great culture like for the guys, and like never stopped conversation.
Yeah.
Just talk.
Yeah.
About random stuff, but great stuff. And like
We need to kick them out.
Yeah.
Like, guys, we gotta go home. Come on.
It made the whole like culture fun. It was like usually like people would just get back after work and they would just like go home. They were up here for like 2-3 hours.
Just having a great time.
You know,
we're in the office down there. We're hearing the boys just laughing upstairs. It was great.
Well, I think it's like human nature to want to like surround yourself with like-minded people that are the same as you. But you got to remember, if that's all you hang out with all the time and you're around those people all the time, then where are you going to get any new ideas from, or where are you going to get any type of new experiences from?
Sure.
You know, and I grew up in that kind of, you know, and sometimes now it's looked at it on as bad as that kind of hockey culture. Like you hear that, oh, it's a hockey guy, he's an idiot and likes to drink beer and yell at ladies, you know, whatever it is. And that's really starting to change, obviously. But when you're kind of locked in that, you know, like I wasn't even really a big drinker when I was growing up and stuff. And I got into high school and I kind of hung out with like all the Drew ads. These guys were awesome. Like, these weird guys, they had a band and shit. And I'm like, here, you got to drink beer. Who cares about your athletic career, you know? And, you know, but you got to learn different things and you had different experiences. So I think in a company, you need that. You need kind of a wide variety of people.
Yeah. I agree.
Just to wrap things up here, Steve, what's the next 5 years look like for you?
Ooh. Well, I'll be honest with you, because I think people like honesty. Is like, I've been struggling a little bit lately because, you know, I'm trying to figure out, you know, is this it? Like, do I just get up and, you know, walk around the house and walk the dog and cut the grass, or, you know, or is there something else? So, you know, I'm trying, and it was so weird to have like from the time I was probably, you know, 15 or 16, I always had a job and I worked so hard. And then there was the point where I was ULS and Spectrum and the real estate stuff. And, you know, I was working 70, 80 hours a week, and it went like that almost up to the end. And then all of a sudden it just dropped right off.
Yeah.
And so now it almost feels like, you know, you get into a day and it's just slow and there's not that excitement. You get stripped away a lot of your identity. I think people attach it to work, and so that's gone. So, you know, you hear a lot about this kind of talk about, you know, like some people struggle with retirement. And I said, I'll figure it out. The summer was pretty good. I went fishing. Well, I started like really getting into fly fishing, so I just got into that, and it was great, and I was having a blast. So there was lots to do, and all of a sudden, I can't fish anymore. The river shut down. But, you know, so now I'm just trying to stay curious. I've kind of realized I don't think that I can just hang the guns up.
Yeah,
like
I feel like you're the guy that can never retire.
Oh, I can't handle it.
I've met lots of people. You are like the number one person I've probably met that cannot retire.
No, and I'll be honest with you, it's like, you know, you there's all this talk about mental health, and I've been having these talks with myself, like, you know, you got to stay positive, don't get down. And I think that the big thing to do is to stay curious. So that's kind of my motto. Yeah. I keep saying, be curious, because you wouldn't believe, even for me, like when I left, I had 900 employees. I was on a plane all the time. I knew millions of people. And then as soon as your email's gone, right? And then as soon as you're not that person anymore, it doesn't take very long before you become irrelevant. And it's not a bad thing, because it's kind of nice to know that you can kind of just walk off into the sunset if you want. People aren't going to keep bugging you and asking you shit.
Yeah.
But it does play a little bit with your head. So, I'm trying to look at this and talk myself through it. And my big thing is like, let's just stay curious, keep talking to people. I think I have lots of experience and lots to offer. So, I do have some stuff coming up. And like I said, this autonomous company is pretty cool. So I'm on the board of that. I'm on another one for a home software company. I don't know why I'm in all this tech stuff, because I'm not a tech guy. And then I got a couple other things that I'm looking at. But what I don't want to do is be the person that just runs into another relationship, right? So people use that analogy if they go through a divorce or break up with somebody, don't rush into another relationship. It's same with a company. You have a relationship with it, so don't go rush off and do something else. It's not fair to somebody else to say, I'm going to come and work there, because like when I said before, you need to spend 5 years to make differences.
Yeah.
You just don't want to rush over there and then 3 months later go, this isn't for me. So I want to be able to commit to something fully if I do, or, if I'm consulting or something, that's different, because you don't have to spend as much time. You can say, here's my commitment. It's 10 hours a week or 5 hours a week or whatever it is. So I'll figure out something. Like I said, I try to give myself a year. So I got till June 1st. So I have some more time to hang out.
If there's anyone at the board that's going to figure out and see. And Liam's right. Like, if there's one guy that's not going to ever be king of the rocking chair, read like the encyclopedia, it's you.
Exactly.
You're going to be out there.
He's always
You're going to go from 80 hours a week to like 75. And it's going to be probably going for retirement.
I don't know if I want that anymore.
No.
I think it's good to stay busy. Like, I think it was actually Donald Trump that said this. He was like, to retire is to expire.
Yeah.
And it's like, I honestly, like, even like us, like we have a break with a bit of a downtime like right now. I've been going like crazy for the past like 2 weeks, like not working. Like, I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
Like, I would rather like be in jail in solitary like confinement.
Yeah. Well, it feels like it sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it drives me crazy. Like, I like literally, I love working. I love staying busy. Like, like.
I'm thinking about this recently.
Sure.
The whole concept of retirement, is it? I don't know if it should actually be a thing. Like, it's very new. Like, back in the 1700s, were our great-great-great-grandfathers, were they retiring? No, they were working probably until the day they died. Like, who thinks like we should actually 65, cash in your RSPs and call it a day?
Well, the retirement was only started in the 50s.
Yeah,
it's a new thing, and it's actually not a good thing for people, because it's been proven if you retire at 60 compared to 65, the 65-year-old will live 3 years longer. Like, that's the average.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is you stop using your mind, you stop being socially engaged, and the way that the world is right now, I don't think a lot of people are going to have enough money to retire. So if you set up these false kind of ideas of how life's going to be, like, I'm going to retire at 60 and travel. Well, yeah, you can retire at 60, but do you have the money to travel? Like, it costs a lot of, like, I'm kind of at that point now where, okay, I've got a certain amount of money, but no money coming in. So you know what that is? It's a bucket of water, and you got to look at it and go, I got to be able to drink from that thing till the day I die.
Yeah.
And every time you take a cup of water out there, it don't refill. Yeah. It's a weird feeling, especially.
It's like the abundance kind of mentality. It's like, or like, it's like you have that fixed amount and you only see it going down, even if it's like $1 billion. Yeah. It's just like in the mentality, it's always going down. We
talked to a guy that sold his lawn care company. He's like, boys, like thinking back, I don't think I should have sold, because like there's something like you have that few $100,000 coming in every year. Yeah. It keeps it going, it keeps coming, but when you sell, you get that big bank account, it goes down every month. And like something that changes your psyche. So I don't just.
It is, yeah. So like that's where, like I said, I just don't think it's the best thing for people to do. Yeah. Unless you have some really big passions that you like to do, right?
For sure. Yeah. Having a big family, having grandkids, all that stuff's important too, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, you can do that too. You're a good example to others in your life if you're staying engaged and you're adding value and doing something. It doesn't necessarily have to be work for money. And that might not be it. Like, I could find something to do that I don't really get paid for, but it's got to be something that I really want to do. Yeah. Like I used to get up and I'd be like, this is the shittiest thing I could ever be doing. Like, why am I doing this? And then all of a sudden 2 hours into it, I'm really like, Oh, I love this. Keep the bullets coming, right? You're like the old general, bing off the helmet. You're like now I'm like just sitting in the country club. Don't even golf. Anyway.
It's good. Well, Steve, anything else?
Yeah.
Well, it's like a little bit like off topic. I'm just throwing this out there.
Yeah.
But have you ever like thought like I've sort of like considered this. Me and Jimmy have actually kind of talked about this completely off topic, but like, TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. Have you like thought about that? I know it's like off topic. At your age of like 50, 60, does that cross your mind at all?
Thanks, man.
No. I thought about like this like for myself. I thought it's like for myself or whatever. Just like that. Like when you do get tired, when you're 30, even 30, like I'm getting like a little bit more tired as I'm like almost 30 like right now. Yeah. Has it like crossed your mind?
Well, you got to the thing about.
I'm sure.
So my wife's a master herbologist, nutritionalist, and really into fitness and stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
But as you get older, right? If you think about it, so if you have, let's say, a 1965 Chevelle. Right? And it's just sitting there and your grandpa had it. Then you get it and you go and put like a huge engine in it and put in some wicked gas in it and just go out deerfoot and hammer on the thing. Yeah, you got new gas in the thing and it fucking burns rubber, but it's still got bad struts and transmission and everything. So the body ages and everything works for a reason. And it's okay to maybe play with it a little bit. But if you step too far outside of it in any one direction, it's just something else I think is going to give out. Now, I'm not saying you take a bit of testosterone and I've taken testosterone supplements before too, just because it keeps you, especially for mental health and stuff, like the testosterone as it goes down has tons of different effects. Right. So like if you monitor it a little bit, but you don't want to go and do something that's way out of the box over here because the other shit can't keep up. Right?
No, absolutely. For sure.
And that's kind of my analogy. You can't shove, like that's why when they build like muscle cars and they put big engines, they go and redo everything. And then unfortunately with a human being, right, you can't redo everything.
Yeah. No, for sure. No,
that's one hell of a way to end a podcast there. Dirt left of TRT. So if you guys made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Steve, thank you so much for taking the time coming in. And for all of you that don't know, it's minus 20 Celsius today, a huge snowstorm overnight. So we were all hustling a little bit late today.
Yeah, it's 45-minute drive.
So good to see you. Thank you so much, Steve, for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Good to catch up.
Thanks so much, man.
You bet.
Yeah, man.
Good to catch
awesome.
up. You bet.